It's a year now since the war started, and I'm off to the Inland Revenue offices to pay this year's income tax bill. Again, I'm going to ask that the Revenue redirect 10% of my taxes away from military expenditure to non-violent methods of conflict resolution instead. 6 weeks later, inevitably, I'm called to appear in court again. And this time, 3 magistrates tell me that although they understand my decision to refuse to pay for war, they have no alternative to initiate legal action against me. It's a catch-22 situation, really. If I pay up, I become involved against my conscience in state-institutionalized violence. If I follow my conscience and refuse to pay, then I'm treated like a criminal. And although the magistrates were considerate, they only have the power to enforce the law as they see it. They don't have the power to change the law. So I think it's time I did some serious research to try and find out who else is out there who feels as I do that a law that compels conscientious objectors to pay for war is a law that needs changing. I've found a national organisation called Conscience, the Peace Tax Campaign, that is seeking to win the legal rights for conscientious objectors to have the military part of their taxes redirected to a fund that can only be used for peaceful purposes. Conscience has over 2,000 members across Britain and is supported by 60 MPs from across the political divide. I've joined up, and I'm delighted that Conscience has put me in touch with 6 other taxpayers around the country currently facing legal proceedings for refusing to pay for war. The first person I'm going to visit is a Quaker who, as a matter of conscience, is withholding about the same sum as I withheld last year, £750, the amount Britain spends every 10 seconds on occupying Iraq. Robin Brookes is a self-employed toy designer who lives in Wiltshire, and he's expecting the bailiffs round any day now, and apparently he's pinned the £750 he's withholding in £10 notes on a notice board for the bailiffs to unpick. So the aim is, Robin, then, to bring the bailiffs in here and say...
That's basically it. When they arrive, tell them what it's about, and then bring them in and say, well, there it is, and you can sort of see what it says. Sort of every 10 seconds, Britain spends this much on occupying Iraq. And I was going to pin up next to it. You've got each family pays this much each year to finance war. And that one next to it would say this much could pay for, and then I've got enough food and coal for 100 Ukrainian families for a month, equipment for 6 primary schools in Kosovo, basic healthcare clinic for 6 months in Bangladesh. So, sort of just makes the point. I'll take this down now. I'm a bit security conscious.
Apart from sending in the bailiffs, the Inland Revenue has the power to garnish a person's bank account, take money out without their permission, as has happened to a retired literacy teacher I'm going to see who lives in Oxford, who first withheld her taxes at the outbreak of the Gulf War in 1991, and who has recently appeared in court again for the 4th time.
If you hold the conviction that I do, that we have to try to love our neighbours, I'm told that every Sunday when I go into church, love your neighbour. And if I try to do that, and at the same time I'm expected to plot his death and to contribute to it, be made, I think the word I should use is complicit in it, by contributing the money that helps to make it possible, then I think I've every right to refuse to do it. And I think it's worth making a fight about that. I think it should be possible to do that.
It's outrageous, I think, that the Inland Revenue's got the power to take money out of a person's bank account without their permission. Shocking that they've done that to someone like Brenda. When it comes to war, the state's got 2 powers. It's got the power to conscript. It's also got the power to tax, and Brenda has now been conscripted into this war. Manchester next, where I'm looking forward to meeting Dr. Birgit Wolm, a German-born doctor and psychiatrist who works with young offenders, and who, as a matter of conscience, has recently appeared in court for asking that her income tax be spent on peace-building initiatives instead of on war.
I was disappointed with the court case because I didn't really have a chance to explain in details my reasons and my conscientious objections. It's very important to me as a Quaker and as a doctor that I live in peace with other people. I believe that violence is not a good way to solve conflicts, and I believe that each individual has the right to live and the right to liberty, and paying my taxes to spend on weapons that are then used in wars is really very much against my beliefs as a Quaker, but also as a professional, as a doctor.
Next stop, Sheffield, to meet Simon Heywood, a university lecturer in folklore and creative writing, who first withheld his taxes at the outbreak of the war against Iraq in 2003, and despite appearing in court, continues to withhold the military portion of his taxes.
I mean, I want to get one thing straight. I'm very happy to contribute to the defence of the community of which I'm a part. My point is not that I don't have responsibility for defence. My point is the fact that the armed forces, as they're currently set up, don't provide the best available means of defence. In fact, very often a lot of the actions that have been taken by the armed forces in my lifetime, from Northern Ireland right the way down to Iraq, have actually served to put the citizen body in greater danger than they were in before. They weren't about defending at all. By speaking up against the current system and by refusing to cooperate with it, I am in fact contributing to the defence of my community, much more than I would be if I was paying up without so much as a murmur. It's irresponsible not to protest, I think, the way the system's set up at the moment.
Back to my homeland, North Wales, where I've arranged to meet Sian Cooper, a single mother and a devout Buddhist, who has also recently appeared in court for withholding her taxes.
Well, I've been a Buddhist for 33 years or so, and I've taken a vow from the Dalai Lama not to kill, among other things. And if I pay my taxes in full, knowing that whatever percentage, 10% or probably more these days, with Trident, will go towards killing people, then that would be breaking my vow, so I can't do that. As you can see, it's very peaceful here, except when one of these warplanes go over to practice in order to kill people. A lot of the problem of the world is people making money out of weapons and out of wars. And somehow that's got to be sorted out. But if governments didn't pay for it, and if people who support the governments didn't pay for it, it'd be a big help.
It was interesting to find so many people around the country who feel as I do, and my last port of call is southeast of England, where there's a chartered accountant who's recently appeared in court.
The bringing of the Human Rights Act directly into British law brought with it the right to freedom of expression of one's conscience and of one's religion. And my religion is pacifist. I'm a Quaker. And how that manifests is that I really believe it's absolutely wrong in all circumstances to kill somebody else, no matter what the reason. This is in conflict now with the government's right to tax me, because the government says it can tax me and use that money to go and kill other people or prepare to kill other people in my name with my money. Years ago, they would have ordered me to go and fight. War has changed. But they would have ordered me to go and fight, and had they done so, I would have had the right to conscientious objection. I would have had to do something else in place of it, or maybe I'd have been given absolute exemption. I would have to face a tribunal for them to decide that. But the modern equivalent, paying one's tax for somebody else to go and do it, the government say is not a conscientious objection, and I say they're wrong.
If Roy is right, and the bringing of the Human Rights Act directly into British law has brought with it the right to freedom of conscience, then why does the state still treat conscientious objectors like criminals? The big question now is, does the Human Rights Act apply to taxation? I think I need to try and speak to a lawyer. I'm in the queue waiting to see Philippe Sands QC, author of Lawless World, and hopefully we'll be able to get an interview with him afterwards. We'll see.
The Human Rights Act governs all forms of governmental activity, and in principle it applies to the Treasury and it applies to any decisions made by the British government in committing expenditures from public funds, including funds raised by tax. So in theory and in principle, decisions of this kind are subject to compliance with the Human Rights Act.
So yes, the Human Rights Act does apply to taxation, and there are now two parts of English law which are incompatible. The seven of us decide to meet up in Birmingham to work out how we can best challenge current policy. Individually, the costs of taking on the power of the Treasury and their lawyers and barristers to bring the law into coherence are astronomical. But collectively, we might just be able to do it. First, though, we need to come up with a name. Something about maybe war tax, tax or war resistance, people Birmingham 7 or war tax resistance UK. Or any other suggestions that you might have.
War tax 7. Peace tax 7. Peace tax.
Peace tax might be a better,
As
it's a more
to have
positive
peace than
name,
war
isn't
tax.
it?
The Peace Tax 7 campaign is born, and we plan to take our case forward for a change in the law, a judicial review. Conscience, the Peace Tax campaign, supports us and have put us in touch with public interest lawyers, experts in judicial review, led by Human Rights Lawyer of the Year, Phil Shiner.
Well, I'm acting for a group called Tax 7, and they've instructed us to take a case on judicial review. I think it'd be plain to most judges that this is an important issue, it's never been ventilated before, you're not interested to public funds, and that bear in mind that judicial review is a fundamental part of our unwritten constitution. It must surely be right for you to have the right to have your case ventilated properly before a court. We're going to be putting an argument which says there's no need, it's a disproportionate response to your right to freedom of conscience to slam the door down and say under no circumstances whatsoever will we make any concession ever for people in your position.